I stood frozen in the hospital hallway as the doctor's words echoed through my mind. I'm sorry, but we did everything we could. My wife of 12 years, Sheila, was gone. Just like that. One minute we were planning our anniversary trip. The next I was planning her funeral. The ground beneath me seemed to disappear as nurses guided me to a chair. All I could think was, how am I supposed to breathe in a world where she doesn't? That night, alone in our bed, surrounded by her things, her scent still lingering on her pillow, I screamed until my voice gave out. This couldn't be real. This couldn't be happening. Not to us. Not to her. 3 months later and nothing had changed. I was still drowning. Anthony, you need to eat something, my pastor said, standing in my kitchen. The same kitchen where Sheila used to dance while cooking Sunday dinner. I nodded, but the words didn't register. Nothing registered anymore, except the pain, and the emptiness, and the rage that bubbled beneath it all. Let Jesus carry this burden, he told me. I wanted to, but where was Jesus when the doctors couldn't stop the bleeding? Where was he when I begged and pleaded for a miracle that never came? I stopped going to church, stopped praying, started drinking. The South Side has no shortage of places to lose yourself. Dark corners where nobody asks questions, where nobody knows your story or sees your pain. That's where I met Renee, bartender at a spot 3 neighborhoods away from mine. Beautiful smile, kind eyes. She listened when I talked, and didn't push when I didn't. You look like you're carrying the weight of the world, she said the first night, sliding another drink my way. Something like that. My wedding ring felt like it was burning a hole in my pocket. I'd taken it off before walking into the bar. 2 weeks of late nights, talking after closing. Her laugh reminded me what it felt like to be alive. The guilt came later, in the mornings. Come by my place tonight, she whispered on a Friday, slipping her address into my hand. Her fingers lingered on mine. You shouldn't be alone all the time. I stood outside her apartment building at midnight, rain soaking through my jacket. One step away from betraying everything I once held sacred. One step away from trying to fill a God-shaped void with something that could only leave me empty. My phone buzzed. A text from my pastor. Checking on you, brother. We miss you at church. Jesus hasn't forgotten you. I stared at those words as the rain pounded harder. Jesus hasn't forgotten you, but I had forgotten him, had walked away when the pain became too much. Standing there in the rain, I remembered Sheila's faith, unshakable, even at the end. Anthony, she had whispered in those final hours, promise me you'll let Jesus in. He's the only one who can carry you through this. I had promised. And here I was about to break that promise in the most fundamental way. I texted Renee that I couldn't come up. Then I turned and walked 12 blocks in the pouring rain, past boarded storefronts, and underneath the rattling L-tracks. Back home, I fell to my knees in our bedroom. Still our bedroom, even though she was gone. Jesus, I whispered, my voice cracking. It was the first time I'd spoken his name in months. Jesus, why didn't you heal her? She was too young to die, I yelled. No thunderclap, no dramatic sign, just the quiet settling of something in my spirit, like taking a full breath after months of shallow ones. I'm angry at you, I admitted, tears flowing freely now. I'm so angry. She believed in you until the end, and you didn't save her. The words hung in the darkness. I pulled out my phone and texted my pastor back. Can I come by tomorrow? That night, I slept with Sheila's Bible clutched to my chest. I'd found it on her nightstand, open to Psalm 34. She had underlined verse 18. The Lord is close to the brokenhearted, and saves those who are crushed in spirit. I was certainly brokenhearted, definitely crushed in spirit. And for the first time since losing her, I allowed myself to consider that maybe, just maybe, the Lord really was close. Maybe Jesus had been there all along, waiting for me to stop running. 3 months before everything changed, the morning sun streamed through our kitchen window, casting a golden glow across the granite countertops we'd saved for years to install. I stood there, coffee in hand, watching Sheila dance around our kitchen to Al Green while flipping pancakes. Anthony, you're staring again, she said, flashing that smile that still made my heart skip after 12 years of marriage. Can't help it. You're beautiful in the morning light. She rolled her eyes but couldn't hide her pleasure. Save that smooth talk for your clients, counselor. These pancakes won't flip themselves. We'd met at a church picnic in Atlanta. though neither of us was particularly faithful then. Our relationship was more about Sunday fashion than Sunday worship. She wore these gorgeous wide-brimmed hats that made her look like royalty. I was captivated. I had worked my way through law school, clerking by day and studying by night. Made partner at 35, youngest black partner in the firm's history. We built what I thought was a perfect life. Good jobs, a beautiful home in a neighborhood my grandparents could only have dreamed of entering, and respect in our community. We hosted cookouts where Sheila's mac and cheese became legendary. We planned for children someday. You think the Williamses will bring their new baby to the cookout next weekend? She asked, sliding a stack of pancakes onto my plate. Probably. Karen's been dying to show off that child to everyone south of 87th Street, I replied, drowning my breakfast in syrup. I want that someday, she said quietly. Don't you think it's time we stopped saying someday and started saying now? I remember feeling a flutter of panic. Let's get through this case I'm working on first. Big client, big payday. Henderson Industries merger could set us up for life. She nodded, disappointment flickering across her face before she masked it with another smile. Always another case, isn't there? We were living the black American dream my parents had sacrificed so much for. My father had worked 2 jobs for 30 years so I could go to college. My mother had cleaned other people's homes so I could own one that made them proud. Church was something we did on Easter and Christmas, a social obligation rather than a spiritual necessity. God was a distant concept, someone to thank during award speeches or blame when things went wrong. What for? So Pastor Williams can guilt us into another building fund donation. I scoffed, reviewing case files while half watching TV. No, Anthony, because maybe there's more to all this than what we've built. She gestured around our carefully decorated living room. Maybe we're missing something important. I changed the subject. The Bulls were playing, and I'd rather talk basketball than theology. 2 weeks before everything fell apart, we attended a charity gala downtown. She wore a red dress that stopped conversations when we entered the room. I was so proud walking in with her on my arm. You've done well for yourself, Anthony, said Judge Griffin, an old mentor of mine. Your father would be proud. Thank you, sir. It's been a good year at the firm. Just closed the Morrison acquisition. And how's your spiritual life? He asked unexpectedly. I laughed uncomfortably. Well, you know how it is. Busy times. Billable hours don't leave much room for church. The old judge nodded. Just remember, son, a man can gain the whole world and lose his soul. Success is a terrible god to worship. I dismissed his words with a polite smile, and moved on to more comfortable conversations about property values and vacation spots. That night, Sheila fell asleep before me. I watched her breathing, the gentle rise and fall of her chest, and felt a sudden inexplicable fear grip me. What if I lost her? The thought came from nowhere and everywhere at once. Don't look for trouble, I whispered to myself in the darkness. We've got years ahead of us. The following Sunday, to her surprise, I suggested we attend church. Not our usual Christmas and Easter church, but a small storefront congregation I'd passed on my way to work. Something about the simple sign had caught my eye. Come as you are, leave different. Really? She looked up from her book, eyes wide with surprise. Yeah, maybe you're right. Maybe we are missing something. She smiled so brightly it almost hurt to look at her. I'll wear my yellow hat, she said. We never made it to that church. Monday morning she complained of a headache. By evening she couldn't remember my name. By Wednesday she was gone. An aneurysm, they said. Nothing anyone could have done. In the space of 72 hours my perfect life shattered into unrecognizable pieces. I stood in our bedroom the night after the funeral, her yellow hat still on the dresser where she'd laid it out. The hat she never got to wear to the church we never attended. Why? I screamed into the empty house. Why? The morning after Sheila's funeral, I convinced myself I could handle it. I'm Anthony Johnson. I made partner at 35. I've won cases everyone said were unwinnable. I can get through this. But strength is a funny thing when your foundation's been ripped away. 3 days after burying my wife, I returned to work at the law firm. My managing partner gave me that look, pity mixed with discomfort. Take more time if you need it, Anthony. I didn't want time. Time was my enemy now. Every quiet moment was filled with her absence. The first week back, I missed 2 important client meetings. My mind would wander to Sheila mid-presentation. One minute I'm discussing merger strategies. The next I'm remembering how she'd leave sticky notes in my briefcase. "Remember you're loved," they'd say. The senior partners called me in. "Anthony, your clients are noticing. Maybe you came back too soon." I nodded like I understood, but inside anger bubbled. Why was everyone treating me like I was broken? I just needed normalcy, structure, purpose. 2 weeks after the funeral, I stopped answering calls from church members. Sister Williams kept leaving messages about casseroles in my freezer. Deacon Thompson wanted to check in. I didn't want their concern. Their prayers hadn't saved Sheila. What good were they now? 1 month in, I missed our mortgage payment. The reminder notice came in Sheila's name. She'd always handled our finances while I focused on billable hours. I crumpled it up and threw it across our bedroom that still smelled like her perfume. 6 weeks after I lost her, I started drinking heavily, just to sleep at first, then to get through depositions, then to face the morning. Sheila had helped me quit during law school. "You're stronger than that bottle, baby," she'd say. Turns out she was wrong. 2 months after the funeral, I was put on administrative leave. Showed up to court smelling like whiskey. The judge, not Griffin, thank God, called a recess and reported me to the bar. My managing partner didn't even look angry, just disappointed. "Get help, Anthony. The firm will support you, but you need to get help." I laughed in his face. Help? Who could possibly help me now? 3 months in, the bank sent a foreclosure warning. I threw it on the pile with the other unopened mail. Bills, condolence cards, church bulletins. What difference did any of it make? The house felt like a mausoleum anyway. 4 months after losing Sheila, I lost my partnership. The firm couldn't wait any longer. Clients were complaining. My absence was costing them money. They offered a severance package and references. "When you're ready to practice again." I signed the papers with shaking hands. Anthony Johnson, Esquire, was no more. 5 months without her, and I stopped leaving the house altogether. The neighbors' pity was suffocating. The grocery delivery guy's awkward hang in there made me want to scream. The blinds stayed closed. The phone stayed unplugged. 6 months after Sheila died, her mother came by unannounced, stood on my porch pounding on the door, until I had no choice. The shock on her face when she saw me, unshaven, unwashed, surrounded by empty bottles, it cut deeper than I expected. "This isn't living, Anthony," she said, tears streaming. "This is dying slowly." Sheila would be heartbroken. I wanted to scream that she had no right, that nobody understood. Instead, I just whispered, "I don't know how to do this without her." She hugged me, despite my dishevelment, despite the stench of a man who'd stopped caring. "She wouldn't want this for you, baby. You know she wouldn't." After she left, shame became my new companion. The promising young lawyer reduced to this. 7 months after her passing, I found myself sitting on our bathroom floor at 3 a.m., pill bottle in one hand, Sheila's photo in the other. I'd calculated exactly how many it would take. No more pain, no more empty bed, no more walking past her closet, still filled with clothes that held her scent. I'd lost everything. The house was in foreclosure. The bar was considering suspending my license. My savings were gone. My reputation was in ruins. What was left to fight for? In the photo, Sheila beamed with life. Our wedding day. I remembered that moment, how she'd made me promise that if anything happened to her, I would live fully. "Don't you dare waste the life God gave you grieving me, Anthony Johnson," she'd said, half joking. "I'll haunt you if you do." I was about to break the most important promise I'd ever made to her. In that moment of complete desperation, I did something I hadn't done sincerely in years. I prayed, "God, if you're real, if you care at all, I need you now. I can't do this anymore." The words felt foreign on my lips, empty at first. Then something shifted in the stillness of that bathroom. Not a voice or a vision, just a presence, a warmth that didn't make sense given the coldness of my heart. I realized something as I sat clutching those pills. I'd been trusting everything except Jesus. I'd trusted my career, my success, my ability to logic my way through any problem. I'd even trusted my grief, wearing it like armor against healing. But none of it had saved me. Each thing I'd grabbed onto had crumbled in my hands. "Jesus," I whispered, my voice breaking. "I got nothing. nothing to offer. No more achievements, no more pride. If you want what's left of me, it's yours. I flushed the pills, one by one, watching as each little escape route disappeared. The next morning, my phone rang. My old pastor, the one whose text I'd been ignoring for months. Something made me answer. Anthony, I know you've been avoiding me, but I felt led to call right now. Are you okay? The dam broke. Everything poured out. The pills, the drinking, losing my job, the shame of it all. Come to the church, he said simply, right now. Come as you are. Ah. I drove to the church in yesterday's clothes, unshaven, probably still smelling like whiskey, but Pastor Williams just embraced me at the door. Welcome home, son. He didn't preach at me. Instead, he shared his own story, how he'd lost his first wife in a car accident at 28, how he'd raged against God, how Jesus had met him in his darkest hour. The Lord doesn't always calm the storm, Anthony. Sometimes he calms us in the storm. He invited me to a grief support group. I went that very night, sitting in the back, arms crossed, ready to bolt at the first everything happens for a reason. But nobody said that. Instead, I found a room full of people who understood. A young mother who'd lost her son. An elderly man whose wife of 40 years had passed. A teenager whose father had died suddenly. All of us hurting. All of us searching. An older gentleman named Greg became my anchor. He'd lost his wife 2 years prior. I was like you, he told me, after my third meeting. Successful businessman. Thought I could handle anything. But grief doesn't care about your resume. He taught me that faith wasn't about understanding why. It was about trusting who. Even when the why made no sense. I started attending Sunday services again. At first I'd sit in the back, leaving before the final prayer. But slowly, I moved forward. Row by row, week by week. 3 months into my recovery, I stood up in grief group and shared my whole truth. The pills, the drinking, the career I'd destroyed. I expected judgment. Instead, I found grace. We've all been there, Greg said. Different stories, same pain. But look at us now. Still here, still fighting. That's Jesus working, even when we can't see it. I began volunteering at the church's legal aid clinic. Nothing fancy, just helping people fill out forms, explaining their rights. It felt good to use my skills for something meaningful again. 6 months after that night, on the bathroom floor, I received a call from an old colleague. His small firm needed help with a case. Nothing permanent, just contract work. I almost said no. What if I failed again? But I heard Sheila's voice in my head. Get back on that horse, counselor. I took the case. My hand shook during the first client meeting. But I made it through. Then another case. Then another. Then another. A year after losing everything, I was slowly rebuilding. Not the same life that was gone forever, but a new one, a deeper one. One built on a foundation that couldn't be shaken by circumstances. I joined the church's prison ministry, sharing my testimony with men who thought their lives were over. If Jesus can save a broken lawyer from the South Side, I'd tell them, he can save anybody. 2 years after Sheila's death, I met a woman named Melissa at Grief Group, a widow herself. We became friends first, bonding over our shared loss and faith. Sheila would have liked her. I could almost hear her saying, "About time you found someone to make sure you eat actual meals, Anthony Johnson." 3 years later, I stood before the Illinois Bar Association's Character and Fitness Committee, petitioning for reinstatement of my law license. I didn't hide anything. The drinking, the missed court appearance, the complete breakdown. But I also shared my recovery, my faith, my service to the community. Mr. Johnson, the committee chair, said, "You've been through more than most attorneys ever face. What makes you think you're ready to practice law again?" "Because I'm not the same man who lost his license," I replied. That man thought he was invincible. He thought success and talent were enough. This man knows he needs Jesus every single day. This man knows that serving others is more important than billable hours. This man has been broken and rebuilt by grace. They reinstated my license. I didn't return to big law. Instead, I opened a small practice on the South Side, helping families who couldn't afford downtown prices. My office is simple. Nothing like the mahogany and marble of my old firm. But Sheila's picture sits on my desk, next to a worn Bible and a photo from my wedding to Grace. Some days I still miss Sheila with an ache that takes my breath away. Grief doesn't end, it just changes shape. But I've learned that Jesus doesn't promise to remove our pain. He promises to walk through it with us. My story isn't unique on the South Side. Plenty of us have been broken by loss, by addiction, by pride. But that's where Jesus does his best work, in the broken places, where we're forced to admit we can't save ourselves. I tell my testimony wherever God opens doors, churches, prisons, recovery centers. I tell them about the successful lawyer who thought he had it all figured out, who lost everything when his wife died, who nearly ended his own life on a bathroom floor. And I tell them about the Jesus who met me there, who didn't lecture or condemn, who simply said, "Give me your broken pieces. I know what to do with them." Every morning I pray in the same spot where I once knelt in rage and despair. But now I pray differently. Lord, thank you for saving me when I couldn't save myself. Thank you for using my mess as a message. Help me serve you well today. Help me point others to you. And tell Sheila I'm keeping my promise. I'm living fully, just like she asked. The South Side of Chicago forged my faith in the furnace of affliction. I'm not the man I was before, polished, proud, self-sufficient. I'm someone new, someone who knows that success isn't about verdicts won or money earned. It's about souls saved and lives transformed. My name is Anthony Johnson. I was a successful lawyer who lost everything: my wife, my career, my will to live. But Jesus found me at my lowest point and showed me that losing everything wasn't the end of my story. It was just the beginning. Some nights when the city sleeps and the L train rattles in the distance, I stand on my porch and look up at the stars, barely visible through the city's glow, and I whisper a truth that took me 37 years and one tremendous loss to learn. Jesus is enough, even when nothing else is, especially when nothing else is. That's my testimony. That's my song, and by God's grace, that's my life.